My future may now hold hope, but I owe it to Lysandra and Calliope to never forget the night I killed them. I will be forever regretful, beyond words. This night shaped me more than any other in my life. The ghost of Sparta, as much as the name haunts me, ghost was perhaps the perfect word. All I was, the puppet of Ares, the Spartan captain, the husband and father. They all died in that temple, and yet I still remained to wander the land, my body white as death. I was left with only pain and hatred, a deep burning malice for Ares and for myself. Who I despised more, I do not know. This hatred was all I had left, and yet my oath to the very god who had tricked me into killing my own kin still stood, now bound by blood. But I did not care. I would do his bidding no more. I left him and my men behind. Whatever punishment Ares would conjure up for me, I welcomed it. I wanted only to be alone, to mourn, and however futile, I dreamt of vengeance. As I wandered Greece, madness began to take hold. Pain, grief, rage, hatred. They burned like the fires of Hades in me without end, and my mind could not hold. I was tormented by visions, visions of Lysandra and Calliope, visions of home. They were like dreams, glimpses at the life I should have chosen. And they were cruel. My endless crusade for power and glory. This is where it had led me. Madness had infected me, but I would soon learn that these vivid delusions were not all the doing of my own mind. One night I took refuge in the abandoned village of Kira, and I found myself in my home. Another illusion, of course, but it had been so long since I had sat at that table, and as I sat there reminiscing, I was interrupted.
Your mind is troubled. Your skills are still without equal.
Do you have business with me?
Your thoughts are not your own, but I can help you.
Lysandra's necklace.
Use these items to still your mind, Kratos. Do not let illusion deceive you.
Just holding it in my hand and thinking of her banished the illusion.
I see only you.
Good. You will need this skill for the path ahead.
And what path is that?
The path of freedom, Kratos. Freedom from the Furies who relentlessly hunt you in the name of Ares, and ultimately, freedom from your bond to the god of war himself.
The Furies. It seemed these visions were not entirely a symptom of my own madness. The Furies were keepers of oaths in Greece. To abandon an oath to a god would provoke their wrath. Ares was furious at me for abandoning him, but for his own plans, he needed me. He had sent the Furies to plague me with illusion, to weaken my mind. And now this shade offered a chance to break free from this torment, to break free from my oath. It did not seem possible.
Break an oath with a god. Of all the minds in question, mine is not the one to worry about.
You waver from sound mind to illusion in the beat of a heart. Is that any life for a great warrior? The truth waits for you in Delphi, Kratos. Seek the Oracle.
I saw no other path, and the Shade had helped me to break the illusions of the Furies. If he did speak the truth, then I had no choice but to travel to Delphi to speak to this Oracle. I faced many beasts and hellish creatures on my path, but none could stand in my way. For perhaps the first time, I did not fight for glory, or for Ares, but for freedom. for a chance to break free from the god of war, and perhaps, somehow, to rectify my dark past. I arrived at Delphi to find, not Aletheia the Oracle, but a mad prophet named Castor. He had taken over the temple and fancied himself a ruler. He demanded tribute.
Place your offerings for Aletheia. We will decide if they're worthy at our will.
But I was never one for flattery
I offer nothing.
or patience.
I have come to see the Oracle, and that is what I intend to do.
Not tolerate your impudence. You will not see her.
He and his brother, Pollux, were more powerful than they appeared, but I had little tolerance for those who would stand in my way.
You have sealed the Oracle's fate. You will never know the truth.
He sent Aletheia plummeting to her death to prevent me from speaking to her. A deed I ensured did not go unpunished. At the bottom of this pit lay the Oracle, breathing her final breaths. I tried to heal her using an artifact I had found.
The relic you carry has no effect on me.
Then I fear you are beyond aid.
Do not worry. The Furies infect your mind because you run from your oath to Ares. They will stop at nothing should you resist.
So the Shade speaks the truth.
The intentions of Orcos are pure,
Orcos? But he is a Fury.
and he will play his part in time. To be free of the madness that infects you, you must defeat those who hold your bond with the god of war.
How can I defeat the Furies when all I see is illusion?
Across the sea, the lantern of Delos keeps the eyes of truth.
I regret much of my past life, but recalling my meeting with Aletheia, I am reminded of the conflicted man who would become buried underneath the wrathful ghost of Sparta. I tried to save her before anything else. I demanded nothing of her, and I held her hand as she passed. I was still a scorned Spartan warrior on the verge of madness and fought as furiously as ever in my pursuit of freedom. But in the hardest way imaginable, I had learned empathy, the value of life. I had began, perhaps, to heal, to mend my terrible ways. The monster I would become later would scarcely show such compassion. Even in her last breaths, she showed me the way to freedom. And if it meant revenge upon those who had forged my immortal bond with Ares, then so be it. As I boarded a ship for Delos, there was Orcos, who I now knew was a Fury.
Only a coward hides himself, Orcos.
The Oracle had said his intentions were pure, but a god's betrayal heavy on my mind. I was far from a trusting man.
You know I'm one of the Furies who forged your bond. You would have killed me before I could even speak.
Then tell me, what has brought you to this betrayal of your own kind?
He told me everything.
The god of war has been plotting for years. I was brought forth by the joining of the war god and the Fury Queen. Ares hoped to conceive the perfect warrior, but I was only a disappointment to him. It was my mothers who spared me. They gave me the task of keeping the oaths. But it was you, Kratos. It was the final task of your bond that made me question the actions of my family. I sought counsel with Aletheia. It was she who revealed to me the plot of Ares to overthrow Zeus. But he needed the perfect warrior. Ares molded you to take down the very walls of Olympus.
Ares, destroy my enemies, and my life is yours!
To To make you beholden only to him, Ares and my mothers devised 3 blood tasks. Spill the blood of your enemies. The blood of the innocent. The blood of your very
The past is the past, Orcos.
past you now seek to rectify.
And I will do so without the aid of a Fury.
Eventually, I reached Delos. When I reached the top of the wrecked statue of Apollo to find these eyes of truth the Oracle spoke of, I found myself back in Sparta.
You leave an army in disarray. Return to us, General. Lead us to victory.
You do not exist. You are of my mind.
Return to your roots. Return to who you are, Sparta.
At last, I found myself face to face with the Furies.
We only mean to bring you home.
Sister, show him what Sparta does to a traitor!
And they used the men I had left behind to weaken my resolve. But I would not fall for their tricks.
You will pay!
I had thought one of them defeated, but it was a cunning trick.
Enough! It is time, Kratos. Return to your rightful place.
I will never serve Ares again!
All 3 Furies remained, and I was subdued. My own rage used against me.
You will return.
Death first!
I should have done this a long time ago.
Orcos! This is what you align with, Spartan?
This time, you will fail.
Orcos, despite my earlier scorn, had came to my aid.
This power helped me escape Hecatoncheires.
And what will happen to you?
If you do not succeed, my fate is sealed regardless.
As selfless and as noble a man as I have ever known. I made my way to the Lantern of Delos and found the Eyes of Truth, but Orcos was captured.
I'm sorry, Spartan. When I learned that my mothers were close, I came to what...
All this effort and you still fail.
I rushed forward to help him, and was captured.
Come, sisters. We will break him within the walls of Hecatoncheires.
I do not regret charging in to save Orcos. Again, I am reminded of the newfound value of life that my loss had taught me. Such selfless acts would be short-lived. A flash of humanity before the ghost of Sparta's fearsome and long rampage. Honorable as my attempt was, my capture saw me taken to the Hecatoncheires. The first to betray an oath to the gods, the Hecatoncheires was a Titan-sized being, whose body was twisted and warped into a gargantuan prison for those who would betray their oaths. This is where I was to remain until my will was broken, and I returned to serve Ares. I was kept on my knees, my arms chained up by the blades of chaos, and my neck in a yoke like an animal. In such chains, even a short while soon becomes an eternity. And as I kneeled there with nothing to do but think, hope began to fade. Part of me thought this to be a fitting punishment for my many, many crimes. But where I did not waver was that I would never serve Ares again. First was rage, for the Furies who had chained me up like a slave. For the god of war who had sent them and who had made my life a nightmare. And most of all, for myself, for making this damned oath to begin with, and for all that had came of it. Then came the despair, to kneel here and stew in my own anger and grief, a fitting punishment for a monster such as myself. At least this way, perhaps, I could spread no more misery, no more death. What a fool I had been to dream of freedom, of redemption even. Then, the rage returned, and I was left to stew in it. If this was my punishment, then what was to be Ares? And what of the Furies who kept me here, who had helped him devise his schemes, to make me his pawn? I had murdered my family, but so had they. Was I to remain here in chains while they remained free to continue their treacherous designs? No. This captivity was not my destiny. I would have my vengeance, and these witches, the Furies, would be the first to taste it. Megaera, the most sadistic of the Fury sisters, and whose arm I had torn off.
What's wrong? You seem confused, Kratos. Having trouble remembering our special time together?
Her more subtle sisters had kept her at bay, but after 3 weeks of waiting there, she came to beat me. And she made a grave mistake. She had captured a beast, threatened it, goaded it, and now she had loosened its chains. My vengeance had begun. For the first time, I had the upper hand on one who had played a part in my family's death. I tore through the prison of the damned in pursuit. All of the grief, all of the hatred, everything I had felt since my family's death. It became concentrated, intense rage. My mind was honed entirely on catching this wretch and making her pay. Not even reanimating the colossal body of the Heka-Tongar-Ys itself could stop me. To be free of my oath, the 2 remaining Furies would have to meet the same fate. But they were far more cunning than their fallen sister. And as I made my way through the prison, more tricks of the mind awaited me, this time preying on my Spartan roots.
I have watched you over the years. Even the loss of your brother did not sway your focus. The tragedy only improved you. And today, you have earned your place among us as the greatest general Sparta has ever known.
I was not fooled.
So, there is something you value more than ambition.
Of course there was. And for her next illusion, she would use what I valued most of all. I knew it was an illusion. But my mind and my heart were still damaged. Still broken.
I have been away far too long.
You can see her in the morning. Come.
I wanted it to be real. More than any revenge. Even if, just for a moment, I wanted to go back. I tried to go back, but it could never be.
In time, you will forget. All that you have lost can be yours once again.
If this is what keeps you in service to Lord Ares, then this is what you shall have.
It is not real!
I can be your reality.
Offer yourself to us completely, and you shall live in blissful illusion.
Never.
Then let death be your reality!
I grabbed the eyes of truth from Alecto, and so was ready to face her and Tisiphone. The Furies had one last illusion ready for me as Alecto took on the form of a giant kraken. But with the eyes of truth, I was able to put an end to their powers for good.
You are not fit to be called a Spartan. I lost everything because of you.
I finally put an end to Tisiphone's cruel visions. Only Alecto remained.
My death will not free you from this madness!
If I only knew how right she was. The Fury's stronghold collapsed around me. But next I knew, I was home. No illusion this time. A friend had came to my aid. No, not a friend. A brother.
I would not have been strong enough to choose your path, Spartan.
Orcos.
I would have taken what my mother's offered.
I would rather live in truth.
I fear you may come to regret those words. Lord Ares still holds your bond.
This cannot be.
Before you killed them, my mother's once again made me your oathkeeper. For you to be free, I must die by your hand.
I do not understand.
If you do not release me, my father will retain power over you. But even worse, I will live in eternal torture.
I have spilled enough innocent blood.
There is no other way, Spartan. Destroy the oath. Kill Ares. Have your revenge. I was never the warrior my father wanted me to be. But please, all I ask, give me an honorable death.
Orcos, shunned by his father, bound by an oath, and a victim in the schemes of the gods. I am sorry, brother. I can now finally say that I have made good use of the freedom you gave me, for your sacrifice, for Atreus, for my new chance in life. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. It had cost the life of a good man, but I had broken my bond to Ares. He had no power over me. I was free. But free for what? Revenge? Atonement? Redemption? I had many paths before me now. But breaking my bond to Ares came at a price that would drive me down the most terrible and darkest of paths. Madness. Deep, raging, consuming madness. My terrible legacy had only just begun. And yet, when I think back to the man I was during my fight against the Furies, I am strangely given hope. I was broken, still driven by Spartan rage and grief. But my horrific misdeeds had taught me compassion, empathy. My ways had began to mend. I held those who passed. I reached out to help those in peril, even when it was too late. And the thought of spilling any more innocent blood filled me with shame. I still had many demons, but I was a far cry from the tyrannical general I had been, and from the mad, vengeful spirit I would yet become. As he advises my writings, Mimir insists I add that this more compassionate, more considered warrior was but a glimpse at the good man and the honorable warrior and father that he knows today. Thank you, brother. I hope I am worthy of your praise.